What's that thing that you once said or did that you still cringe at to this day? Deleted. I was at a club, and the part we were at was kinda lame. So I was a little drunk and walked over to what seemed like another room in the club. I am walking with these 3 girls behind me, and as I am crossing over to the room, this other guy is walking opposite to me. We kinda do that stupid dance when you run into someone in the hallway or whatever. I laughed. So did he. Then I thought, why the fuck isn't he out of my way yet? Then I noticed he was wearing the same shirt as me. It was a fucking mirror. Wrote a condolence letter to a friend when her siblings both died. I got both names wrong. She opened and read the letters right in front of me. Had to pee while shopping with my mom at a clothing store. So I pissed in the changing room stall. Mom got an earful from the manager. I thought in Paul that the cup they had you wear would hold my piss if I had to go. Nothing like having your kid piss himself in outfield. Was introducing my wife to extended family members at a wedding. When I went to introduce like 3 of them, I all of a sudden drew a blank for their names. I just stood there for like 20 seconds going I just put my head in my hands and said, sorry, I have a headache, please excuse me, and left my wife there for a few minutes. I was doing chest compressions on a patient in the hospital. Nurse tripped and pulled my pants and underwear down. She tried for a good 30 seconds to pull them back up for me. So many others. So many. I was changing my baby boy. Took his diaper off. Lifted his legs to wipe him. All of a sudden I heard gurgling. He was peeing into his own mouth. I just stood there for a second perplexed. I stole a handshake from a guy walking right behind me. Not a wave. Not a high five. A fucking handshake. I just grabbed his hand and looked at him. Then he looked past me. I turned around and there was another guy just standing there perplexed with his hand out. The only thing I could do was walk away without saying a word. I was homeschooled and put into a public school softball team at 13 or so. I had never played games with other kids and wasn't allowed to watch TV, so didn't know any rules or how the game worked. I just ran around when people yelled and tried to steal the ball from people from time to time. I ran the bases when I was supposed to be at 1. I stole home plate. I threw the ball to the outfield. Those poor kids probably thought I was disabled. Thank you for the gold. When I was 16, I ran into my mom's best friend in the grocery store, and said, Mom didn't tell me you were pregnant. When are you due? I'm not pregnant. I'm just fat, was her reply. I've never made that mistake again. I could be in the delivery room with a woman, and see the baby's head crowning, and I'd still ask something like, so, do you all plan on having children? I grew up in a very white, very rural town. When I was in school, people from our town, because of the town name, were frequently referred to as beaners. I had zero clue this was a racial slur, and assumed it was along the lines of being called a Yankee as a northerner, not friendly, but not profane. Anyway, a beloved, and coincidentally Latino, faculty member passed away pretty unexpectedly, and I wrote a tribute to his life, which was read at his funeral and published in various places that included the phrase, "For the man who made Beaner a compliment." I meant it in the way that his excellence gave value to our town, with zero irony, and was well into college before I realized my mistake. And no, nobody corrected me. Back when I was 15, I was leaving Ireland to move to the UK, and I admitted to my friend that I'd been in love. I was not fucking in love at all, but I thought I was, with this girl in our class. She was all I ever thought about. As I was moving, I knew I would never see her again, but for some reason I wanted her to know how I felt, but I couldn't tell her myself. So I wrote a cringy note and left it in her bag one day. Then a few days afterwards, I texted my friend, telling him to tell this girl that I love her and will miss her very much. He texted back, saying he showed the text to her. Her reaction was apparently not good at all. I felt like complete shit, but then, whatever, I was moving away. 1 year later we fucking moved back. I was back in the school, back in her classes. Yeah, I kinda never said a word to her for the next 3 years. I still hate my 15-year-old self. I said I love you whilst naked in bed with a girl I'd had a handful dates with. As the words were coming out of my mouth I was praying for a stroke. I started that day a virgin. I ended that day a virgin. I was 22. When I was in 6th grade I used to call a girl every night after dinner for like a year. I thought we were best friends. One day at lunch I asked her if I could have some of her M&Ms and she said yes. If you stop calling me. I was working backstage in a production of The Addams Family, the play. I asked the girl playing the old lady if the effects makeup they used to make her teeth look all old and gross had a funny taste. They hadn't put any makeup on her teeth. In middle school I attempted to seriously convince a crush that I was a vampire. We briefly reconnected earlier this year. She remembers, I don't. I had a disgusting crush on this 8th grader. When I was in 7th grade, me being a creep, I found out his dad was a doctor. My stupid brain decided that would finally be how I start a conversation with him. So I go up to him one day after school and I'm like, hey, your dad is a doctor, right? He looks at me strangely and says yes. And I open my big dumb mouth and say, he's really great. I go to him a lot. He gets this very confused and slightly disgusted look on his face and walks away. Come to find out, his dad was a gynecologist. Skeptical. I flashed a pair of Mormon missionaries when I was around 4 years old. On purpose, too. I was in just a towel and I opened it and screamed Eem Nyaraki Eid. Edit, I should clarify. This is cringeworthy because I grew up in a Mormon household. And we saw these missionaries frequently and actually knew them personally. And they saw my dick. And my family has never let me or any girlfriend of mine forget about it. I was 6 or 7 and at that age most people are pretty flexible. Well, I learned that I could put my foot behind my head and I thought that made me cool. Well, fast forward a couple of weeks and my parents are picking me up from a friend's house and they start chatting with my friend's parents. I decided, I should show them my cool trick. Putting my foot behind my head. So I get off of the couch and put my foot behind my head and right as I do that, I let rip a massive fart. I mean it was a good 7 to 10 seconds fart. Everyone was looking at me and I am constantly reminded of it. Never gonna live it down. Edit, and my most upvoted comment by far is about farting in front of my family and friend. Should I be happy? I think I'm happy. We used to have weekly 20-minute silent reading sessions during my freshman year of high school, where we brought in a book of our choice. One time, after the 20 minutes were up, my teacher had us go up to the whiteboard in turns and write down one word we came across in our reading that we were not familiar with. I wrote dominatrix. Edit, to this day I seriously can't remember what book I was reading. Definitely wasn't anything pornographic. My teacher did answer. After doing a double take and pausing for like 20 seconds to collect his words lol. He told me it was a very dominating woman and left it at that. Looking back at it, I feel bad for the position I inadvertently put him in. Generally not something any male teacher wants to explain to a 14-year-old girl. One day when I was in kindergarten, there was a girl that I had a little crush on. At least as much of a crush that a 5-year-old can have, I suppose. The teacher summoned us to the floor area, where she sat on a chair to read to us or something. I wanted to sit next to said crush, but she wanted to sit next to her friend. What did my rational 5 years/er mind do? Cry. Yep. I bawled my eyes out because she didn't want to sit next to me. Naturally, the teacher stopped and asked me what was wrong. After my blubbering story about her rejecting me, in front of the whole class, she forced the girl to let me sit next to her. Bonus cringe. I forgot to tell my mom that we were doing a show and tell about with a theme of collections. So at the last minute I decided to take all the Tupperware lids to school. So for all my class knew about me, I collected Tupperware lids and cried about not being able to sit next to girls. Edit, thanks for popping my gilding cherry, random stranger. I'm happy that my embarrassment can make people laugh. We had a fundraiser in elementary school for the Easter Seals and the top people got Knicks tickets and got to meet a Nick for a day. Gerald Wilkins called me over in front of hundreds of people that afternoon and I asked him into a microphone why all basketball players were black. Everyone laughed, including him. But I still can't believe I asked that.